What's up guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a lovely day today and I hope it gets even better from watching this video. Today we're gonna cover all about how you can talk to anyone, how you can have the conversation skills, the confidence, the charm, likability to literally talk to anyone and have something to say and not feel awkward and overthink what you just said and what are they thinking? Oh my god, I stuttered, that was so embarrassing. No. All of that ends today, okay? Because I used to be this way. I used to overthink everything. I was scared to ask a question so I wouldn't seem dumb. I was scared to speak up in a group. Like I just was on mute and I just didn't feel comfortable. I also felt like I was so bad at small talk. Like, what do I say to you? I would just stand there and be like, the weather's nice. But I've also gotten myself out of it. So I'm going to share with you my best tips. We're going to talk a little bit about like mindset shifts if you have social anxiety. But even if you're not on that side of the spectrum, you don't have social anxiety, you don't feel super awkward, but you just want some little skills to be a better conversationalist and to be more charming, you're in the right place, okay? If you're new here, hi, I'm Nika, welcome. I make videos all about self-improvement and I like to make them very like actionable. Here are the tips, the tricks, the actual things you can do to make a real change in your life that you're actually gonna notice. So if that works for you, I'd love for you to stick around and subscribe and check out my social media if you wanna see more of my personal life. And without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, let's quickly talk about the mindset shift that changed everything to me back when I had social anxiety and I was feeling awkward and like overthinking everything. And then we'll move on to all the little skills, things you can say, practical tips. So the mindset shift that really moved something in here, okay, was to take the focus and the energy that I had on myself and pour it onto the other person. What I mean by that is when I was, socially awkward, dealing with all of that, like to be completely frank, it was all about me. Me. I did this wrong. I said this wrong. Oh, I feel awkward because I stuttered. Or what are they gonna think of me? Are they gonna think I'm silly or stupid or awkward? Or it was all about me. Okay. And the biggest change that I made was to refocus that energy on the person that I'm actually speaking to. So instead of wasting my energy on all the things that I'm doing wrong, I would focus it on making the other person feel at ease and comfortable. And the good news about this is if you have a lot of social awareness, which usually if you're the type of person who overthinks social situations, you already subconsciously know how to make people feel more at ease. It comes naturally, okay? But if that doesn't really make sense to you, like it doesn't compute, you're like, I don't really know how to do that, you can just focus on being curious about whoever is in front of you. Who is this person? Seriously, like what are they about? What are they interested in? What are they really good at? What are their passions? How do they spend their day? How many languages they speak? Who do they like to hang out with? What music do they listen? Like endless information that you can reveal. So be curious and ask people questions. Of course, we'll go into all the little skills that will help you do that and like actionable tips. But the best way to be interesting is to be interested. And I don't want to be ignorant. Of course, there's so many skills you can learn and little things you can do to be a better conversationalist and to be more comfortable approaching people. But a lot of it is also about your self-esteem. And if you're constantly doubting yourself, you feel really bad about yourself, you don't really understand that you're amazing and you have so much to bring to the table and you're interesting and all of that. Like I've been there. I totally know how that feels like. I have a whole playlist about this if you want to dive into it. I'll link it down below. But also therapy can be amazing here. Like it's helped me change my life completely. Like I am a different person. I started therapy when I was 15. I'm now 26. Okay. So I have lots of experience with it and it has changed so much for me. So if you have really intense social anxiety or really low self-esteem, I highly recommend trying out therapy. An amazing resource if you want to try it out and get started is BetterHelp, and they're actually sponsoring this video. As we all know, starting therapy can be a little scary sometimes, a little intimidating. So BetterHelp makes the whole experience a lot easier and a lot more comfortable. It's online therapy, so it's totally up to you if you do it through a phone call, a video chat, or even through messages, and you can schedule a session at a time that's actually convenient for you and from the comfort of your own home. BetterHelp connects you with the licensed therapist who is trained to listen and give you helpful, unbiased advice. So if you want to try it out for yourself, I'll have a link down below, or you can go to betterhelp.com/Nika. But it's really easy to get started. You basically fill out a questionnaire to help assess your specific needs, and then you'll be matched with a therapist in most cases within 48 hours or less. They have over 30,000 therapists in their network, so it's so much easier to find someone who has the skills to really help you, but also to find someone that you really like actually gel with and connect with and feel comfortable with. That's very important. So if the therapist you're first matched with doesn't really feel like that, it's not really the right fit. That can honestly be pretty common when you're first starting therapy. So BetterHelp makes it really easy. So you can switch to a new therapist at no additional cost. Over 4 million people have used BetterHelp to start living healthier, happier lives. You guys know, I don't even need to say it. I'm a huge fan of therapy, and especially online therapy. I've been doing that for a few years now, and it's really helped me. So I really hope you can find the right fit for yourself and get the benefits that I have. You can click the link down below or visit betterhelp.com/Nika, and that will give you 10% off your first month of BetterHelp so you can connect with a therapist and see if it helps you. Okay, now let's get into the skills portion of this video, which I'm honestly the most excited about. The first skill is to engage with people when they speak to you. So you're going to be actively listening. Your attention is going to be fully on them and what they're telling you. I'm telling you that if you listen to them actively, really listen, your response at the end is going to be so much better every single time than if you half listen and think about what you're going to say next. You're maintaining that eye contact, you're digesting what they're actually telling you, you're nodding along, you're like expressive. So if they say something crazy, you're like, oh my God, really? So you can say those little tidbits to make it even more obvious that you are, first of all, listening, but also very interested and engaged in what they're saying. Like, tell me more, Jesus Christ, that sounds insane. That's a little exaggerated, but you know what I mean. Also, don't be afraid to throw your opinion out there if you agree or if you disagree. Like, if you agree, if it's positive, you can be like, oh my God, I'm so glad you said that. I totally agree. I felt this way my whole life. Tra-la-la. Or like, oh my God, me too. I always thought that was so wild. If it's negative, like if you disagree, instead of saying like, oh, I don't agree with that, or like, you're wrong. Don't do that, okay? That doesn't make people feel good. They feel on edge, or they go on the defense, or they feel like insecure. It just doesn't make people feel good. Obviously, we're talking about people that you've just met or you don't know that well. If you're, with your friends or people you're close to, obviously you can disagree fully and be honest, but we're just gonna package it a little nicer, okay? So instead of saying, no, you're wrong, or, that's not right, you can say, really, I always thought it was XYZ, or really, why do you think that? You can still share your opinion, even if it's different, but you can still do it in like a curious way. Like, I wanna know why you think that way. It's interesting. Skill number 2 is to call people by their names, just because it makes us all feel good and special. So when you meet someone, they introduce themselves, you can say, hey Sarah, it's nice to meet you, or nice to meet you, Sarah. Like, you repeat their name because that also helps you memorize it, so you can use it later on. Let's say you're at a bar with like a group of people and Sarah that you've just met 15 minutes ago is over there with a nice drink, and you're over there without a drink. You're like, I don't know what I want to drink. So you just go, hey Sarah, is that drink any good? Like, I'm trying to decide what I want. I have no idea. Is that good? It opens it up to a whole possibility. She might become your best friend. You never know. You might have a lot in common. You might both like tequila. Who knows? But also it makes her feel special. Wouldn't you feel special that you just met someone 15 minutes ago and then they go, hey Nika, what do you think about this? I would feel like, oh, that person must really like me, or like think that I'm interesting or something, Makes us feel good. Skill number 3, we've already kind of mentioned that, but I want to go a little bit deeper. Share your openness and curiosity. So let's say Sarah just said something about horses and you're like, oh, I've always wondered about that. Is that because XYZ? Or do they do that because blah, blah, blah? Again, you're gonna learn something new, which is amazing. You're showing your openness and curiosity. And also you're making Sarah feel good. Like, she clearly likes horses and she'd love to talk about it more. Wouldn't you be excited if someone was like asking you follow-up questions on a topic you're really interested and excited about? Of course you would. Who wouldn't? Also, don't be afraid to ask silly questions. Like, you're walking by a bridge and you're like, I've always wondered how they build those. I have no idea. You might think like, oh, that's awkward. That makes me look stupid. No, that makes you look confident, actually. Like, I think it's so cool when someone says something like that and I'm like, I actually have no idea either. Should we Google it? Or maybe someone in a group knows. A lot of the time when that kind of question is asked, even if it sounds silly, a lot of people in the group usually don't know the answer either. And also it takes the pressure off other people in the group or whoever you're speaking to, because now they're allowed to ask silly questions also and appear silly. It doesn't matter. Like, you've broken that wall and we can all be silly together and ask questions and appear stupid or whatever. Who cares? Everyone has asked stupid questions, or wants to ask a question but is afraid that it's going to be stupid. And also don't be afraid to laugh at yourself. Obviously, those kind of questions and silliness falls into that. It's funny, makes people feel comfortable. It's great. The next skill is to not be afraid to overshare. What I mean by that is, let's say you meet someone for the first time, like you meet up at a cafe. So you introduce yourselves and then maybe they ask you, how was your day? So instead of just saying, oh, it was good, how was yours? That kind of like limits the conversation. They're gonna answer and then you'll be like, what do I ask now? So what you can do is overshare a little bit, okay? So they ask you, how was your day? And you say, it was good. I just saw a rat on the subway. But other than that, it's been smooth sailing. How's your day been? And that makes it much more interesting. The conversation is more open. And then you might have a 15-minute conversation about rats in New York City. Who knows? Maybe this person has a rat phobia and they have lots to say about it. You never know. And then once you're done talking about rats, you can circle back to them and be like, okay, enough about rats. How are you? How has your day been? You already have something that you've like connected over and you literally just started a conversation. So don't be afraid to overshare a little bit, to open it up and let the conversation flow. And by the way, that's not always going to happen. They might, be a little more closed off or reserved. And when you share that you saw a rat, they're like, oh, that sucks. I've been good, so that doesn't mean that you did something wrong or you were awkward. It just sometimes doesn't work. That's fine. There are other opportunities. Another skill, I guess, is to not be afraid to show your excitement and like passion when you talk about things that you're interested in. That is very magnetic, it's attractive, it's interesting. I honestly want to listen to someone passionately talk about something, even if it's plumbing. I honestly don't care if they're passionate about it and I can see that they're lit up and they're so excited about it. And then because they're so excited, I'm like, plumbing seems great, like tell me more. But if this same person was talking about it in like a very boring, like, oh yeah, the plumbing and whatever, then I'm probably not gonna be that interested. I'm probably not gonna ask that many follow-up questions because that person doesn't seem like they wanna talk about it in the first place. So don't be afraid to show your excitement, your passion, your happiness with the world, okay? We wanna see it. It's that time in the video where we need to talk about small talk, okay? This used to be something that I was like, shoot me now. Don't want to do it. No, thank you. But I have since changed my mind, okay? Because small talk is basically a warm-up and a vibe check. When I have small talk with Sarah, I get to see her vibe. I get to see, what she's like, if we gel, if we have some chemistry, if we can keep this going, or if maybe we don't gel that well and maybe I might not want to keep talking to her the whole night. It is a necessary step to just get your feet wet and just see what they're about. Obviously, everything we just talked about applies to small talk as well, like being curious, asking questions, not being afraid to be silly, oversharing a little bit, like all of that gets the conversation flowing. But when you're asking questions and if it doesn't like naturally flow, which, with some people you're very lucky and you don't even have to think, like it just goes. But a lot of the time it doesn't, and that is fine. So when that is the case, you want to pick up on similarities between the two of you. So everyone actually likes talking, okay? Everyone likes talking, maybe even about themselves. But they need to feel comfortable and connected to do so. So maybe they don't like talking in a group of people, but when they're with their best friend that they're comfortable with, they can talk for hours. That is usually the case with most people. They actually do like talking, okay? So when you're picking up on those similarities and you kind of drive the conversation that way, you make them feel more comfortable, you make them feel like, you relate, you connect, and that will make the conversation flow more easily, more naturally. Some very simple questions you can ask are like, if you're at a restaurant or a bar, you can ask them what they're drinking. And if they say tequila and you really like tequila, you can then talk about tequila, or you're like, oh my God, have you been to that tequila bar in town? I don't know if tequila bars exist, but who knows? You find similarities and you pick up on them, and then you can talk about that. Or you can ask them where they're from, or more specifically, what part of town do you live in, or what part of town are you from? And then when they say like a specific area and you have been there, you can be like, oh my God, I really like that park over there. Or you can be like, oh my God, I had the best pasta of my life in that restaurant that's in that part of town. Again, flip it on yourself. Like if someone asks you what part of town you're from, and then they're like, oh my God, I love that place or whatever, like that makes you feel good. It makes you feel special. special. It's like, you live there, you probably like it, or you're trying to like it. Like, it helps when someone is positive about it and not bashing it and has something nice to say. And then you can talk about this restaurant or this park that they mentioned or whatever. So again, pick up on your similarities and the things, the topics that spark like enthusiasm, that get the person that you're talking to or both of you excited, and then drive the conversation that way. So if you ended up talking about that restaurant in their part of town for like 15 minutes and you can see that person is so excited and passionate about food, you can then talk about food some more. Or it can also be a little invitation. Let's say you're at a bar and they have really good food and you can be like, I've heard they have the best appetizers here. Do you want to try one with me? And it's like a bonding experience. You're making a friend. The next little skill is saying what comes to mind, like positive little compliments. So maybe you're in a line at a grocery store and the girl in front of you has an amazing jacket. And usually I would just keep that to myself and I wouldn't say it, even with friends. Like, you kind of acknowledge something that's nice and you don't say it. So making that a habit, again, starting small, starting with your friends, your family members, your coworkers, people you kind of need to interact with all the time anyway, and just saying what comes to mind if it's like a little compliment. Or it can be like you just met someone, you're having small talk and this person seems very ambitious. They're very passionately talking about their impressive job. Compliment them. Like, if it popped up in your mind, you can say it. And it doesn't have to be like, oh my God, you're so ambitious. That's so great. You can even say things like, I really need to borrow some of your ambition. Just make it a little spicier. It can even be like you go to your regular Pilates class. There's a girl there that you've never spoken to, but she has like a whole new hairstyle or hair color or whatever. You can just make some eye contact and just say, I love the hair. And then that might spark a whole conversation. You might become friends. Some examples when it comes to complete strangers, if you want to practice this. I'll give you a personal example. I was just on a train coming from the airport, and it was one of those trains that was not meant for suitcases, and we all had suitcases because we came from the airport. And so we were all like struggling, blocking the way because there was nowhere to put the big suitcases. And there was a girl next to me, and you can tell we were both struggling, and we kind of made eye contact at some point. And I just said, like, this train really isn't meant for this, is it? And then we just had a little conversation and, nothing came out of it. Like, we didn't become friends or anything, but it was still a nice little chat, and it makes you feel good, honestly. Or if you want to be a little more daring, let's say you're standing in a bakery line and there's like a hot guy in front of you and you want to spark a conversation. You can literally go, I don't know if you've decided already, but I just need to tell you that cinnamon bun changed my life. I highly, highly recommend. Instead of, again, worrying like, oh, did I come across weird? Was that weird for me to do? Flip it around. Like, if someone in a line said that to you, would you think it's weird? Like, I wouldn't. I would be like, oh my God, thank you. I'm gonna try it. And again, that might lead to a nice conversation, maybe even a date. Like, who knows? Again, it's not weird. You just have to own it. Okay, now let's talk a little bit more about when you're meeting someone for the first time, like how to kind of approach them, or when you're introducing people. That can be a little awkward sometimes, so let's cover that. So when you first meet someone, let's say you need to walk up to someone, shake their hand, introduce yourself, you want to send them friend signals, okay? This is more about their subconscious mind. They don't want to see you as like a threat. So the way you give friend vibes, having an open body language. So you're not like closed off or, falling in on yourself. You're open and confident. Good posture, open. Also visible hands. So having your hands somewhere where they can see them, because if your hands are like behind your back when you're approaching someone, that's very threatening, okay? And of course, eye contact, okay? It's kind of weird if you're not looking at them and you're like, hi, I'm Nika. And of course, like, a smile goes a very long way. So that also helps a lot. Let's talk about those kind of awkward situations when you run into someone that you know and they're with people that you don't know. That can be a little awkward because what can happen is you guys are speaking and the other people are just standing there, or you're on the receiving end of that. Like, it's not like the most pleasant situation to be in. So how can you avoid that and just shimmer and glow while doing it? So the first scenario, you run into a friend, they're with other people. So they're like, oh my God, hey, how have you been? Blah, blah, blah. And as soon as there's like a little pause and opening, you look to the other people and you're like, hi, I'm Nika, it's so nice to meet you. That again makes people feel good. It makes them feel at ease, a little special, like you actually acknowledge their existence. How nice of you. I'm kidding, obviously, that should be the standard. But let's say it's the opposite scenario. So I'm with Johnny over here and I run into Sarah, and Sarah's like, oh my God, how have you been? And I'm like, oh my God, so good, how have you been? She tells me how she's been, and then I'm like, this is Johnny, Sarah, Johnny. Johnny is actually the local tennis legend, just so you know. Let's say Sarah in this situation is like a big tennis fan and player, and she loves tennis. So you find something, hopefully there is something that these people can relate on, and that like opens them up to both be in this conversation. Again, it puts everyone at ease. You make people feel comfortable, welcomed, and accepted. And that also makes you look good. If you're worried about that, you look confident, you look self-assured, and you look carefree. Okay, now let's talk a little bit more about how you can get to a point where you're comfortable to do all these things, where you feel confident doing all of that, because that's obviously going to be a big factor. So the first thing that I want to say, if you have social anxiety, one of the worst things you can do, and I'm speaking from experience here, is to avoid situations because of it, because that's usually what makes it grow and grow and grow and make it so much worse and make these like standard everyday experiences scary. I honestly like pushed myself to just say yes to things, to actually do it, not hold myself back because of this anxiety. Like I would just push myself and go. Also, if you're in a situation where you're really shy or you're very awkward, you're anxious, whatever, it helps to start small. Like next time, I'm just gonna say one more sentence. So instead of just saying, oh, I'm good, how are you? I'm gonna be like, oh, I'm good. I just went for a swim. It was really, really nice. I highly recommend. You know, you just add one more thing. So just start with that. You can start by smiling at people. You know, you give yourself a challenge that this week I'm gonna smile to one stranger. And with time, like when you push yourself to do these things over and over again, you see that it's not that scary, and it becomes something that you know, you've done it, you've survived, it was fine, and you can keep doing it. And it becomes easier and easier every time. And maybe at some point later down the line, you might want to start going to places alone. You might want to sign up to a little Pilates class you've been wanting to try and no one wants to go with you. Give yourself a little challenge to go by yourself and spark up a conversation with someone. But again, you're working on that confidence. You're showing yourself and your anxiety that it's not a big deal. Like you'll survive, you know? I know that's like difficult when you're really in it, but honestly, again, the more you do it, the easier it gets. When you're actively like meeting people, you're having small talk, if all else fails, sincerity and honesty is sometimes the best policy, okay? So if it's not flowing or you're just like lagging that day, it's just not coming out of you, right? You can say something like, I just realized I haven't spoken to a single person today, so forgive me, I'm very slow right now. If someone said that to me, I would be like, that's totally fine. I get it. I've been there. That is totally fine and okay for you to do. Okay? And usually people can relate to it. They have something to relate to connect to. It works like a charm. And again, it takes the pressure off of you and it takes the pressure off of them also. Everything that I've just mentioned, I feel like we could summarize it with you don't have to be perfect. Literally. Like that is actually a very skewed goal that you might have because it honestly makes it hard to relate to and to connect to. Like think about why you fell in love with your friends, why you thought they were so amazing. Like there's probably things that were unique about them that made them very likable. Like maybe it's their weird accents that they do, their silly little humor, or their obsession with cruise ships or Peppa Pig, I don't know. Maybe it's how they get very animated when they're super passionate about something, and that's just something that makes them like special and makes them very lovable. All of that to say, you do not have to be perfect. That is a stupid goal to have when it comes to this, because again, there's not much to relate to and to connect to if you're trying to be cookie cutter perfect. Just don't remove your special sauce, okay? Own it. Use it to your advantage, and I'm sure there's people out there who would love your special sauce. Maybe there's some who wouldn't, and that's totally fine. Good thing there's a billion people out there, and even if someone doesn't like you, the sun will keep shining, the earth will keep spinning, and you will see another day, okay? True confidence isn't everyone will like me, it's I'll be okay even if they don't. I love this analogy. If someone loves carrot cake, and you don't really know how to make carrot cake, but you make a really good chocolate cake, what you're not gonna do is make them a subpar or average carrot cake. You're gonna make them the best chocolate cake they've ever eaten. Even if it's not their favorite, it doesn't matter. You're gonna give them your special sauce, okay? And you're not gonna erase yourself in order for people to like you, because what's that about? What are you getting out of that? Nothing. And again, some people you're just not gonna gel and vibe with. Even if you have the best conversation skills and you're super confident, sometimes it just doesn't flow, and that's totally fine. That doesn't make you an awkward person. That doesn't mean that you messed up. You just didn't gel, and that is fine. A conversation is not your solo performance, it's a dance. And sometimes both people are good dancers, they just don't dance well together, okay? And that is fine. So keep that in mind. It's not all on your shoulders. It's not only your responsibility to make a conversation good. It takes both people, and sometimes it just doesn't work, and that is totally fine. You move on to the next. Again, billions of people in this world. You've got many options, many a fish to fry. Which brings us nicely, I guess, to the next point. I don't know how, but it does. Stop saying, oh, I'm socially awkward. Even I have social anxiety. I am an introvert, tra-la-la. Okay, if it's holding you back, stop saying it. Why are you making it your whole personality? It's the same as if you were trying to become someone who works out. It's not gonna help you if you keep saying to yourself and other people that you hate working out, or you can never stick to it, or you just suck at it. Like, no, that's not helpful. If it's holding you back, we're dropping it today, okay? So you're never gonna say that about yourself anymore, even if it's true right now, okay? Who cares? If you can be delusional about Chad over there who hasn't replied to you in 5 days, you can be delusional about this also, okay? Because this is where it's actually helpful. So pick your new thing. So a new, fresh little identity, and it should be something that you at least a little bit believe, okay? Because if you make it something that's like not believable at all, your brain is gonna be like, haha, you're a liar. And it's not gonna do anything good for you. Your brain is just gonna find ways to disprove you. So pick something that is believable. Maybe that would be, I am actually really good at talking to people one-on-one. Or I can always find something that I have in common with whoever I'm speaking to. Even if it's a 60-year-old man, I can always find something. Just choose something else, okay? Because what you've been doing hasn't been working, and we as people act in alignment with who we believe we are. So make that belief something that's actually positive and helpful for you. Alrighty guys, that is it for this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. I know we were a little silly goofy today, but I genuinely hope these tips were helpful. And if you liked this video, I would love for you to stick around and subscribe. And again, check out my social media if you want to see more of my personal life. And thank you guys so much for watching. I'm gonna see you very, very soon.